I didn't think I would find it. You can practically start every video with these words. And then I found it. Thanks to my subscriber, for which I'm really grateful. And I couldn't even imagine how very unusual it'd be to drive it. Remember, as I have already mentioned earlier, I talked about the Siam truck and the Planet Ross 128. So the Kolkhida is supposed to go along with it, as planned, in the process. The maximum speed on the highway is 75 km/h. Not fast, but quite comfortable. The idea of the vehicle is that the KAZ performs equally well on dirt roads, on country paths, and even on plowed fields, transporting a lot of harvest at once. Traveling on a smooth road makes it easy to transport 20 tons with a trailer.
I believe I can fly.
It's an exhilarating feeling, like soaring through the air. Driving the Kolkhida is a unique experience, and now I understand why the K4540 is called a meter over the abyss. A meter over the abyss, a Georgian on the balcony. That's exactly what Soviet drivers called the K4540. Essentially, it's the latest creation of the Kutaisi automobile plant. The history of the Soviet enterprise began in 1945. The ZIS 150 model. ZIL and GAZ couldn't satisfy the market of a developing state. The enterprise initially focused on the development, production, and distribution and manufacturing of tractor units based on ZIL brand trucks. First and foremost, the Kutaisi plant was the first in the USSR to master the production of cable-S trucks. It was 1961. MAZ. It only went into production in 65. But in early 80s, to be precise, in 1984, this wonder appeared. The ideas embedded in the KAZ 4540 were innovative and progressive. Is it a joke? The Balashov Design Bureau for Trailers and the Yaroslavl Motor Plant worked on creating a truck for agriculture. But where's the KAZ? Engineers from Georgia were also involved, as they were supposed to assemble the latest truck. What came out of this? First of all, understand that the KAZ 4540 is a very specialized truck. This is not a military person, nor a builder or an oil worker. This is real collective farmer. The KAZ is designed for intra-district and intra-farm transportation of agricultural goods, as well as occasionally for bulk mineral fertilizers. And that's it, a collective farmer, that is. This is indicated by the body that opens to the sides, not to three, to the left and to the right. And also, the Kolkhida can operate as a road train. And the trailer, it was specially designed for it. GKB, CP35. That costs the body is lifted using hydraulics, and all operations have to be done by hand. The platform tilts at a 50-degree angle. It's interesting how the drive for the pump that lifts the cargo platform is arranged. It is installed at the back of the transfer case and is driven by the main drive shaft. So there isn't an additional power takeoff shaft here as such. A similar setup was used on European trucks like Tatra and IPA in different configurations. The locking system for the sides on the Kolkhidas existed in two types. The first one is mechanical, and this version is a later one. The hydraulic one only works to lock the side. Hydraulic, it only works to lock the side. I've always been impressed by the appearance of the model. He's not scary, he's scary himself. This one, it's designer and stylistically modern. Imagine it not as a tired worker, as some kind of 3D model from a trendy design house. The cabin is made from stamped panels, welded in a cube, a technological cube, where every detail is thought out. On one hand, it's simple, and on the other hand, it's precise, and also, the cabin hangs not even over the front axle, but in front of it. From the front axle to the bumper, it's 1 meter and 83 centimeters. So you need to start the turn a little later. The cabin tilts. The cabin lifting mechanism, hydraulic, bit of a hassle. And if it breaks, which happened often, lift the cabin. It's practically impossible. Under the cabin is a familiar engine. Actually, know that we know it, but it's not him. Actually, it's partially him. A piece of Kamaz. IMZ Z642. V-shaped 6. The camber angle is 90 degrees. The engine displacement is just over 8 liters. The power is 153 horsepower at 2,500 RPM. Well, and 480 newtons. Every pod has its own lid. Kamaz without 2 cylinders. Everything here is unusual. The fuel injection pump is its own. Good luck finding it. See the gearbox. But you won't see it because it's hanging right in the middle of the body. There's also something from Kamaz here. The cabin suspension system has locks. There are undoubtedly a lot of Kamaz stories, but also a lot of our own. The gearbox is connected to the engine by a drive shaft. There was nothing like this in the USSR, and even now it's not very common. And the torque from the gearbox is transmitted to the axles. And also, there is no transfer case as such. Everything is integrated into the gearbox. Pump, transfer case, gearbox, unified block. Simple and genius. And the collective farmers also complained that the front axles, let's say on the Shishiga, they're a bit weak. And the knuckles and the CV joints, they say, have become more reliable. The axles are similar to ZIL. They're not ZIL. Again, their own. The rear axle rests on 2 packs of semi-elliptical longitudinal leaf springs. The front is on a single one. They are stamped, but there are also shock absorbers in the front. The axles, standardized for the differentials and hubs, but there's no differential lock on the front. It's time to get into the driver's seat. Here's its own step. You can't just jump in from the wheel. It's easy. Get in. This isn't the 66 that I'm rolling into. I'm really stepping in here. The interior is tastefully designed for the 80s. The dashboard is divided into 3 zones. On one side, the instruments are in the center of the switch panel. Axle lock, differentials, lift buttons, light switch. In short, the control panel is no less. What about right side? Right side, not matter, glove compartment. And also, take a look at the clutch pedal. It's usual in its execution.
You can't reach it, the hump is in the way. Smart books say that the Kolkhida's cabin has a 3-seat sleeping area. Well, you could probably fit a little person here as the third and lay them down to sleep. It's a 2-seater, no options. Of course, the role has changed. It's a 2-seater, options. Role, of course, changed. It stood a little bigger, and the Kamaz guitar was present. Soft plastics, 80s. If you compare it to foreign counterparts, it's actually quite good here. Yes, of course, over time they dry out and crack, but our faces aren't getting any younger either. One of them shuts off.
Одна из них
Diesel fuel pump,
перекрывает
and the other one is for the manual throttle.
дистоплива,
Ashtrays.
вторая является
Manual throttle.
газом.
Ashtrays. Everything great. Clothes hooks.
Одежды.
Folks, if this isn't a foreign car,
Марка.
then it really is a foreign car. Diesel saves 55% on fuel. Trucks popular, off-road capable. Diesel trucks immediately won their fans. Moreover, the Kolkhida's off-road capability was pretty good. Once again, this is not an SUV, but it has constant all-wheel drive and a locking rear differential. The steering booster is from Maz, which makes sense. The turning radius is 14 meters. And you have to understand that the wheels are behind you. So if your face is already pressed against the bushes, it's kind of hanging over the shoulder, but you still have to pass through this gap so you understand about the fact that it's a cutting-edge vehicle. Here, there was already a provision for installing a tape recorder and the possibility of later installing an air conditioner. The little windows are supposed to help, but over time they fall out and regular guys glue them back in. The gear shift lever, it reminds me of the Shishiga, but it's designed comfortably. There's really a lot of space. And the owner is also looking for the right guys who can balance the crankshaft and the flywheel. And he's also asking for help to find, I even added wheels. 12x, 25x, 22.5x8 studs. So, who can do this? Hairpins. So, who can do this? Write in the comments and we'll thank you. A peasant could work with any kind of machinery. If the Kaz could run about 75 km/h on the road, which is pretty good for such machinery, then it could crawl across the field at a speed of about 2 km/h like a turtle. Eight-speed transmission system, manual naturally, 8 gears forward and 2 reverse. The whole secret is that there is a divider at the bottom, and there's also a clutch with pneumatic assistance, which really makes life easier. The factory in Kutaisi produced about 5,000 machines a year. They spread out across the entire territory of the USSR. The planned economy tried to saturate the collective farms with the necessary machinery, and the collective farms welcomed the machinery with enthusiasm. They didn't want to lie, they couldn't refuse. But the most unpleasant thing is that the Kaz had a very original design, and it had to be serviced by professional turners and fitters and auto mechanics. That's why the machine quickly became unusable, and auto mechanics. Therefore, the car quickly became unusable. It was hard to keep an eye on it. They just parked it by the fence. And often, in fact, very often, the machines parked by the fence, do you know what their main problem is? A thawed engine. The Kamaz truck withstood undrained water in winter, but the Kaz unfortunately not. The lack of spare parts is a sure death. That's how almost new cars ended up parked by the fence. Some became donors, some were sent for scrap, and some ended up in good hands. The Kaz 4550 is a victim of circumstances. He is judged by other models that were really bad. And a meter above the abyss is an undeservedly forgotten car. I reminded you the hunt continues.